Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Harabi. I'm here alongside my fellow colleagues Sebastian Moranta and James Camo, and we're here to persuade you why you should buy Androids over iPhones. So we're going to first start talking about the US and global competition. In the US, Android leads by a very narrow margin with 52%, coming with iPhone's second place, 42.9%, while all other manufacturing companies are far behind in the competition. But however, in the global market, Androids win by a landslide with 80.7%, with iPhone coming in second place with 15.4%. The only reason why iPhone even has that place in the global market is because of how big they're doing in the United States market. However, all other manufacturing companies are still far behind. And I will now pass the mic along to James Camo, who will talk about the benefits of iPhones.
Now, for there to be a competition between two items, one has to be better in certain areas and another has to be better in other areas. So the iPhone is better in their gaming and their apps area. So many developers, when they're developing an app, take an iOS first approach, and they take this because it's easier and less time consuming for them to produce a iOS based game. So this means that a lot of iPhones will, actually not all, iPhones will receive many new releases before Androids. And Android is a more time-intensive process because developers have to account for a wide variety of phones. And all the phones have different processors, screen resolutions, and more that are different between each phone. So all the games have to compute with each difference. Another related factor to consider is developing for an Android is typically more expensive, sometimes to the tune of 30% more in development costs. Furthermore, support costs are often more expensive for Android titles because, again, there are far more devices to account for. The only big thing against iPhones is iPhones, on average, spend more money on apps than their Android counterparts. So another plus that iPhone has is their user capability. The iPhone, a lot of people have to deal with managing their data, and they don't have unlimited amounts of data to use. So iPhone came up with this way of communicating with each other through Wi-Fi, so that way they're not consuming all the data that they have. Another is the iPhone allows users to back up their memory using iCloud, so that way if the phone is destroyed, the information like the pictures and the messages and all that on the phone isn't lost forever. It's in the cloud. And also, iPhone uses AirDrop, which allows iPhone users to share files seamlessly, whereas Android does not have this option. So now, my friend here, Sebastian, will talk about the benefits of Android.
Sure. So while iPhone users have a number of great options at their disposal, Android phones just have the wide and the greater amount of variety in their products. First of all, just baseline, they have more selection because they're not limited to only one developer. Apple is the sole developer of iPhones, whereas Android machines can be made by huge tech companies like Samsung, HTC, and more. So each and every one of these products and each and every one of their lines of products are developed to suit different needs, some of which focus on more casual users, some of which focus on business users, which those features, offhand can be useful to some customers over others. Generally, Android phones are more affordable than iPhones. iPhones typically launch in the retail range of about $600 to $800, whereas Android phones can be anywhere from $100 to $800, seeing functionality in a much wider range than iPhone allows. In general, Android phones allow you a more customizable experience. Android devices give you the opportunity to make more decisions as to how your device looks and feels, and that includes using third-party messaging and home and lock screen and browser apps, so you can actually change the default browser on an Android phone, which a lot of iPhone users find frustration with. They're constantly opening their links in Safari when they want to use something superior, like Chrome. Motorola, Samsung, and HTC, some of the biggest Android developers, have smart covers and sensors that automatically sense when you lift your phone up to check your notifications or your time, and it automatically displays the time. So it's just generally better suited to the needs that you have when you pull out your phone. Android also has a really dim clock that displays when you're charging it, which is useful for when all you want to do is check the time when you're waking up in the morning. Also, Android phones, some of which have been installed with wireless charging functionality, which iPhone does not offer. So if you want to be able to charge your phone wirelessly, Android is the place for you. So notifications always look better with Android, mostly because you have more customization options, as we previously stated. Android phones allow users to choose which notifications are most important, so you can send all those Angry Birds notifications down to the bottom and get the CNNs or the text messages right at the top. It only takes a single swipe to delete the messages, and iOS 10 users will be familiar with the big notification change that a lot of iPhone users find frustrating. So notifications generally tend to look better on Android devices. And a big selling point for Android devices is that Androids use Gorilla Glass, which is some of the toughest and leading edge technology in glass and screen protection, which iPhone users just can't compare with, and thus iPhones tend to crack much more often than Androids do. To wrap up the benefits of Androids, I'm going to hand this back to my buddy Mohammed Harabi.
Alright, so I'm going to start again by talking about how the keyboard on the Android is much better than the keyboard on the iPhone. Apple has recently begun to display lowercase letters on the keyboard, where Android has always had that. Android also gives you the ability to be able to swipe while you're talking, so you can just, instead of having to lift your finger off the keyboard from time to time all the time, you can just swipe your finger along the keyboard and you can talk that way. And Android also has punctuation on the same screen as the letters, so it takes less clicks to have to get your message across, pretty much, whereas iPhone you have to click a bunch of other stuff. GPS system with Android is also much better, because Android's default navigation system is Google Maps, which is probably known as the best mobile app to use for directions. One bad thing that iPhone has is Siri doesn't work with Google Maps. Siri only works with default Maps app, which is not nearly as good as Google Maps. And photos and videos also goes to Android, because you can manage them better. So managing your photos and videos for Androids, it's better and it's cheaper, because it allows you to use Google Photos, which you can store unlimited amount of free data right on there, whereas Apple uses iCloud, which doesn't give you unlimited data and it's much more expensive. And I'm going to hand it off to James Camo, who will wrap off the presentation.
So throughout our research, we found benefits, like pros and cons for both for iPhone and Androids. But overall, we found that Androids have the majority of the benefits. The majority of them are here. They have more options for their consumers. They have bigger capabilities with smaller price tags. They make your device yours. You can personalize your device any way you would like. They have a reliable screen. If you drop it, there's a less chance of it breaking on you, and you won't have to buy a new phone, which helps with the lower price tags. You get better notifications. You can decide what you want to be important, what's not important, so that way the important stuff you find out first. You have a more functional keyboard. It's easier to type out text messages than it is on an iPhone. There's free cloud space, so that way when you take pictures and you want to, if you take a lot of pictures, if you have new kids or something, you have plenty of storage space where you won't lose any of your pictures. And the biggest thing, the biggest difference is the variety. Androids have many different providers, so there's a lot of different kinds of Androids out there compared to where iPhone, there's one provider, so there's only one kind of iPhone. And then there's just a worksite. That concludes our... Any questions? Questions?
Right. We got to put a questions thing in